Candidates vying for a seat in Congress for this general election faced off tonight in their first and their only debate. On your side's Kaylee Tracy watched the debate between incumbent Republican John Rutherford and Democratic challenger Donna Deegan. So Kaylee, what do you tell us from the debate tonight?
Well, Jeannie, they talked about a variety of topics tonight in the debate that was socially distant. The podiums, they were 8 feet apart. They discussed, again, a range of topics ranging from COVID-19 to social justice to healthcare. Healthcare being Donna Deegan's hallmark issue of her campaign. She's a 3-time cancer survivor. Outlining her healthcare plan, Deegan said all will be covered for pre-existing conditions, and she'd make sure insurance companies couldn't raise rates on those with pre-existing conditions. She also said she'd build on the Affordable Care Act and negotiate the price of drugs with drug companies.
If we don't have a healthy population, we don't have a workforce that is productive. Everything sort of comes back to healthcare. The climate crisis comes back to healthcare. The economy comes back to healthcare. So we're in the middle of a global pandemic. I can't imagine a topic right now more important than whether people are going to have healthcare coverage for their pre-existing conditions.
As for Rutherford, he focused on bringing back jobs in the economy after COVID-19, and he said first we have to get the virus under control, which he says the federal government's Operation Warp Speed is helping to do right now. Rutherford also talked about his time in law enforcement and about social justice, and he has called the Black Lives Matter movement a hate group in the past, but says everyone, law enforcement included, has to work together to fight social injustices.
When I say that I reject the narrative that America is a racist country, and I reject the narrative that somehow our institutions are systemically racist, that America is a bad place, that we have bad founders, it doesn't mean that racial injustice and social injustice incidents don't occur. And when they do, we certainly cannot turn a blind eye.
In a pretty red district, the latest poll from the University of North Florida that was last week said that Deegan does trail Rutherford by 19 points. When I asked her about that tonight, Deegan about that tonight, she said she is still optimistic. We'll keep you updated, of course, on the race leading up to Election Day and beyond. But for now, reporting live, Kaylee Tracy, First Coast News, on your side.